Writer-director John Krasinski takes on childhood imagination. I thought that was A Quiet Place. My childhood imagination was more, it's more like A Quiet Place. I don't know what this says about me. So If is written and directed by John Krasinski. It deals with imaginary friends. It's a little vague, I'll keep going. Revolves around a girl whose father's in the hospital. She can see imaginary friends. So can this random guy played by Ryan Reynolds, so the two team up to pair up kids with imaginary friends. First and foremost, Kaylee Fleming is the star of this film. I thought she was great. She always has been. First time I really remember seeing her is in The Walking Dead after they did that whole time jump thing. She played Judith Grimes. I remember thinking, that kid's really good. Because, you know, with some little kid acting, you don't want to be too mean. You're like, that kid means well. But it was clear she has a talent for the craft, and she's good in this movie too. There's a lot of it rests on her shoulders. Even Ryan Reynolds isn't very Ryan Reynolds-ish. You know what I'm saying when I say that too. Even John Krasinski has a small role in this movie. He plays the dad. When he first shows up, I was like, he's acting a lot like Ryan Reynolds. I'd either forgotten or didn't know that Ryan Reynolds was in this movie. Then Ryan Reynolds showed up. I was like, this is making a lot more sense somehow. Now, Ryan Reynolds in this movie is kind of a grumpy, jaded guy. Enter the point. See, I thought this movie was a movie for kids, you know, a family night out at the movies. It is family friendly, it is kid friendly, but I don't feel this movie's really aimed at kids. I feel it's more aimed at adults in the name of them remembering what it was to be a kid. Kind of like The Wonder Years in that respect. You know, I remember being a little kid, I was like, oh, it stars a kid. Obviously it's made for kids. It's not. Some years later, watched The Wonder Years as an adult and it clicked. It was for my parents to watch so they could remember childhood. Works for adults my age too now. I feel like John Krasinski was going for that imaginative film of yesteryear from an earlier time. Throwing back to Hook or something, those movies where kids can watch it and be entertained, but adults watch it and they see something else. Whereas If does have its fun, zany energy with magical locations, imaginary friends. But there are other moments in If kids might find to be a lull when it's dealing with deeper themes, dealing with adulthood. Kids might just check out, be like, this isn't entertaining, this is boring me. Put on Phantom Menace for the shit-tillionth time so I can see them talk about trade politics, but this other thing, I'm just not old enough to care. And this is a time thing. There's nothing wrong with it. You have to be old enough to be jaded enough to know what it is to lose some of that childhood magic. There's a lot that happens in life into adulthood that just works to burn that imagination out of a lot of us. Back's all messed up from sleeping on a futon after the divorce, after you lost half your shit. In that with If, I see this film coming from a genuine place. Bring some positivity to the adults who may have lost some of that. It's a little uneven at times, no doubt. There's a whole thing dealing with the dad, John Krasinski's character. It almost feels like he wanted to be in the movie. There was no role for him, so he just wrote himself in. It does have a bit of a point, but if he was just not in the movie at all, I feel like you'd still get there. You could still get there anyway. You have to rework this or that, but it wouldn't take much. And it made me feel like at a point in the last act, the movie kind of becomes a little emotionally manipulative. Look, I'll never know the story. I wasn't in the room. It's just theory. Or at the very least, an observation, but when you're connecting the dots of the plot as it's leading to the last act, it looks like it was going to a different place. It felt like the movie was going to go somewhere bigger, and someone stepped in and was like, nah, this is gonna be marketed towards kids also, and this will lose the kids. You can't fully commit to the entire film being midlife crisis therapy. Like cereal mascots, we gotta snare the kids and they will drag the parents to it. Again, just an observation at most, a theory at best, but it did feel like what we got was the second ending, which I guess is fine. I do have questions though, because the girl staying with her grandmother disappears all day long. Granny doesn't seem to care. Does Granny suspect that she's going around downtown to the city all day long by herself, like she's a one-person adventures and babysitting without a babysitter? Or is she like, yeah, I'm sure she's hanging out with some random adult man she just met but doesn't really know and hasn't introduced me to? Either way, it's a pretty dangerous case of negligence on Grandma's part. But if you can look past that, some of the uneven execution, there was a nice heartfelt something here, no alcohol required. At matinee price. I try not to weasel that little caveat in there too often, but sometimes if it fits, it fits. Alright, so If, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite movie or show? Looks like it's geared towards kids, but it's not. It's there to water and nurture the childlike wonder in all of us. That thing which the world aims to burn away, but we don't let it, though sometimes goes into hibernation. Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.